Folks, gather round. You won't believe the story I'm about to tell you. Been a DJ at KBRW, the only voice in the Alaskan wilderness, for going on 7 years now. Seen some strange stuff in my time. Aurora borealis so bright it paints the sky green. Moose stampedes that sound like an army on the march. The occasional drunken reindeer herder stumbling into the studio. But nothing prepared me for the night the sky started screaming. It began with a faint crackle, barely a whisper over the usual static that haunts these northern frequencies. But as I fiddled with the knobs, the sound grew clearer. A distorted voice, ragged and panicked, speaking in bursts of static and broken phrases. It was a coded message, something I'd never encountered before. Now, I'm no cryptologist, but I've got years of fiddling with dials and deciphering scrambled signals under my belt. Something about this one felt different. A primal fear crackled alongside the static, the urgency in the voice sending shivers down my spine. For the next few days, I became obsessed. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Every spare moment spent hunched over dusty manuals and code-breaking software. Finally, a breakthrough. The message originated from a remote research outpost on a desolate island in the Bering Sea, a place called Blackwater Rock. The researchers were in trouble, big trouble. They spoke of a discovery, something ancient and terrifying, that had awakened in the frozen depths. Their pleas for help were heartbreaking, the final words a chilling scream that left me hanging on by the threads of sanity. The authorities weren't exactly jumping at the chance to launch a rescue mission based on a crackle of static from a remote island. Ghost in the machine, they called it. But that voice, that raw terror, I couldn't just let them die. Driven by some bizarre mix of responsibility and morbid curiosity, I started making calls, pulling in favors. Found a couple of ex-military guys with a thirst for adventure, a marine biologist with a restless spirit, and a local pilot who, for the right price, was willing to risk his plane in a potentially suicidal mission. The news footage painted us as a ragtag group of thrill seekers, fueled by conspiracy theories and a taste for cheap thrills. But as the rickety twin-engine plane sputtered through the bone-chilling Alaskan sky towards Blackwater Rock, I couldn't shake the feeling we were flying straight into a nightmare. We landed on a desolate strip of ice next to a skeletal research outpost. The buildings were abandoned, doors hanging open like gaping wounds. An eerie silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the howling wind that seemed to carry whispers of forgotten screams. Inside the outpost, the scene was one of chaos. Scattered research papers spoke of an unearthed archaeological site, an alien artifact of unimaginable power. Blood-stained equipment lay abandoned, overturned tables and chairs a testament to a sudden, desperate flight. The final log entry was a scrawled message. It awakened. No bodies. No footprints in the snow leading away. The island seemed to have swallowed the researchers whole. A heavy dread settled over us. It felt like we were being watched, unseen eyes following our every move. As dusk began to fall, casting long, ominous shadows on the desolate landscape, we huddled together in a makeshift shelter. The wind picked up outside, howling like a banshee. Was it the wind, or something else? Just then, a low growl echoed across the frozen expanse, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. We stumbled out of the shelter, searching for the source. In the distance, a shadowy figure emerged from the swirling mist. It was tall and gaunt, with glowing eyes that burned through the darkness. Terror froze me to the spot. This wasn't some animal attack, not in the traditional sense. This was something else entirely, something the researchers had unleashed with their meddling. The figure let out a deafening shriek, a sound that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality itself. And that's where things get blurry. The next thing I remember is waking up back on the plane, the island receding on the horizon like a bad dream. We never found the researchers, or whatever monstrosity they awakened. Back in the warmth of the radio studio, the events of Blackwater Rock feel unreal. But the nightmares that plague my sleep, the phantom chills that crawl up my spine every time the wind howls, they tell a different story. The news outlets predictably scoffed at our tale, painting it as a publicity stunt gone wrong. The ex-military guys went back to their survival training courses, the pilot to his risky flights, and the marine biologist to her underwater research. We disbanded, a group bound by a horrifying secret and a shared sense of helplessness. But for me, Blackwater Rock became an obsession. Every crackle of static, Every strange anomaly on the radio triggered a wave of dread. I spent nights poring over the research papers we'd salvaged, desperately searching for answers. The artifact they unearthed was unlike anything known to science. A pulsating obsidian sphere with intricate carvings that seemed to writhe and shift in the flickering light. One day, a package arrived at the station, no return address. Inside, nestled in a bed of packing peanuts, was a single photo. It showed the researchers, all smiles and camaraderie, gathered around the unearthed artifact. But one detail sent a bolt of ice through my heart. In the background, barely visible, was a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of the frame, the same monstrous entity we'd encountered on the island. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't just contained on Blackwater Rock. The photo, a chilling reminder, meant the entity could travel, perhaps through the researchers themselves, or some unseen connection forged by the artifact. With a newfound purpose, I contacted the marine biologist, Dr. Anya Petrova, the only one who seemed to share my growing unease. Together, we delved deeper into the research papers, searching for a way to contain the entity, or better yet, destroy it. The chances were slim, but it was the only hope we had. Days turned into weeks, the radio station filled with a nervous energy fueled by our research. We interviewed experts in ancient artifacts, consulted with fringe scientists, anyone who might offer a lead. The deeper we dug, the more horrifying the truth became. The entity wasn't just some dormant menace awakened from its icy slumber. It was a parasite, feeding on fear and despair, manipulating events to ensure its survival. The researchers' discovery and subsequent demise, our own harrowing experience on the island, all orchestrated by the entity to spread its influence. The photo, we realized, was a final warning, a desperate plea from the doomed researchers for someone to stop the cycle. We were it, the last line of defense against a cosmic horror lurking in the frozen wilderness. The story takes a sharp turn when a cryptic message arrives on the station's ancient telegraph machine. It's a single word, repeated in a language the researchers had identified on the artifact, Zoth. Days of frantic research yield a chilling translation, Gateway. Panic sets in. The entity isn't just trapped, it's trying to open a gateway to somewhere far worse. Dr. Petrova, fueled by a mix of scientific curiosity and a desperate need to stop this entity, comes up with a risky plan. The artifact, she theorizes, can be used against itself. By channeling a specific frequency through its intricate carvings, we might disrupt its connection to the gateway and sever its hold on the world. It's a gamble, a last-ditch effort that could backfire spectacularly. But with the howling wind outside growing ever more menacing, and the air itself crackling with an unseen energy, we have no other choice. We gather the resources, a makeshift antenna cobbled together from spare parts, a portable generator humming to life, and prepare to face the entity head-on. As Dr. Petrova activates the device, the radio station fills with a cacophony of static and otherworldly shrieks. The obsidian sphere pulses with an ominous red light, threatening to burst apart. The wind outside reaches a fever pitch, howling like a banshee in its death throes. For a terrifying moment, we brace ourselves for the worst. Then, with a deafening crack that seems to split the sky, the sphere goes dark. The unearthly shrieks die down, replaced by an eerie silence. We stand there, hearts pounding, unsure if we've just won a desperate battle or unleashed something far more horrifying. The story ends here, folks. The threat may be neutralized, but the ramifications remain. What lies beyond the gateway, and is it truly closed? The experience has irrevocably changed us. Dr. Petrova and I continue our research, forever haunted by the events of Blackwater Rock. And every time the wind howls outside, a shiver runs down my spine, a chilling reminder of the night we faced a cosmic horror, and maybe, just maybe, slammed the door shut on something even worse. The silence that followed the deactivation of the sphere was heavy, pregnant with an unknown future. Dr. Petrova and I exchanged a look, a mix of relief and apprehension swirling in our eyes. We had taken a gamble, and while the immediate threat seemed neutralized, the weight of what we'd done settled on us like a shroud. Days turned into weeks, the silence persisting. The radio crackled with its usual static, devoid of the otherworldly shrieks that had become our unwelcome companions. We monitored the research station's instruments for any anomalies, any sign the entity stirred. But there was nothing. Blackwater Rock, once a beacon of terror, had fallen eerily silent. A cautious optimism began to bloom. Maybe, just maybe, we had won. We decided to make a return trip to the island to confirm the entity's defeat and assess the situation. The pilot, ever the thrill seeker, readily agreed, lured by the promise of a story unlike any other. The desolate landscape of Blackwater Rock greeted us with an unsettling familiarity. The abandoned research outpost stood as a stark reminder of the horrors we'd faced. We ventured inside, the air thick with dust and the lingering stench of fear. The artifact lay dormant, a blackened sphere devoid of its ominous glow. But as we explored deeper, a disquieting discovery sent a jolt of fear through us. In the researcher's logbook, the final entry spoke not of the entity's awakening, but of its imprisonment. They had stumbled upon a way to trap the creature within the artifact, a complex ritual involving specific frequencies and astronomical alignments. Our actions, in disrupting the artifact's connection, might have inadvertently released it. Panic clawed at my throat. We had misread the situation entirely. The silence wasn't a victory. It was a prelude to something far more terrifying. The entity, freed from its obsidian prison, could be anywhere, lurking unseen, waiting for the opportune moment to unleash its full wrath upon the world. The radio crackled to life back at the station, a distorted voice filling the airwaves. It wasn't the entity's guttural shriek, but a human voice, filled with a chilling desperation. "Help! Zoth is free!" The voice sputtered out, replaced by a blood-curdling scream. Doctor. Petrova and I stared at each other, the horrifying truth dawning on us. The message wasn't from Blackwater Rock. It was coming from somewhere much closer to home. The entity wasn't just free. It had already begun its insidious work, possessing someone, somewhere, and using them to spread its message of terror.